Welcome back to Asset Control with your host, me, Josh Hannum. Today I'll be sitting down with Melissa, president of Trifecta, a full service property management company here in Omaha. Melissa and her team are on the front lines of what happens after a building is designed, built, leased, and then handed over to management. In this conversation, Melissa and I talk about the real operational side of property ownership, the design choices that create headaches later, where property managers lose time and money, how technology can reduce friction, and why security, access, and infrastructure matter so much for the long term value of an asset. Melissa brings a perspective that developers, owners, and operators all need to hear because she doesn't just look at the building on paper, she manages it day to day, the reality of it. Here's our conversation with Melissa. So, as the president of Trifecta, your team has to manage other people's buildings, right? And when you take over a new property, what is the most common design or infrastructure flaw that you see with properties?
Yeah, I think oftentimes the infrastructure issue comes when we're discussing trash. The architects and builders and stuff that the properties designing are set up to be aesthetically pleasing, but maybe not as
Functional.
functional
Yeah.
exactly as they need to be for actual use of life. You know, your trash chute is on one end, or where the trash person comes to grab the dumpster is in the middle of the building instead of the exterior of the building. It just kind of makes it a hassle for your staff and even for your residents to deal with.
All right. So, if a developer came to you during the blueprint phase and asked you, Melissa, what technology do you need to install right now to make this building flawless for the next 10 years? What's your mandatory list?
My mandatory list would be an easy way for residents to bring people, their guests or their food delivery, some kind of a service that they could easily use their phone and to buzz people in the door. That would be number one. And then bulk Wi-Fi, I think, is really important. People use that every single day, and the way to communicate with their lights or their guests or however it may be, it seems to be a common thing that people are looking for right now.
Okay. All right. So Trifecta manages a wide portfolio across Omaha. What's the number one amenity or technology that tenants are actively asking for today that they didn't care about 5 years ago?
Better communication with the staff. I think one of the best things that we have now are different property management softwares that allow us to communicate with our staff without actually getting to the property. You can text them through your software. You can email them. You can use AI, whatever kinds of different communications without actually having to be at the property. When I first started, we used to have to hand deliver notes like for every type of communication that we wanted to let them know if there was a filter change or there was an emergency. You always had to be there. And now you can quick text them because everybody has their phone all of the time.
Yeah, that's
So the
nice, right?
communication,
It's a
yeah.
communication. That's right. So, property management has traditionally been a very manual, like you said, paper heavy industry.
Yeah.
Where have you found the highest ROI automatically, automating processes at Trifecta?
Well, we're a new company, so there's a few things, especially with our portfolio right now. They're more on the C class to upper B class properties. So there's a great opportunity to build different infrastructures at these properties that have been different from some of the properties that I've managed in the past. Right now, I think the biggest thing that we can do is work on life safety, different measures there. Key control, which we've talked about a little bit at the property. It's a little bit messier than some of the other properties that I've managed in the past.
Okay. What's the true cost of both hard dollars and staff morale of managing physical keys that you brought it up, right?
Mhm.
With midnight lockouts or rekeying units or, turns.
Sure. Um, Keys are always a beautiful masterpiece because people lose keys, people have relationship changes and need their keys swapped out, locks changed. So it can be messy. I've used a couple different systems in my past. Old school where you have a log and there's like a code that leads to a key, which is something I'm using now. And then I've used a key track system. Either way, there's a lot of physical keys, and maintenance loses them, or a vendor loses them, and you try to control it in different ways by taking IDs or doing things like that, but it never seems to work out as nicely as you would want it.
Yeah, yeah. What does Tyson say? Like when everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and you start losing the key, and the whole plan just
Right,
falls apart, right?
right,
So
yeah.
yeah. Owners usually think about increasing their NOI by raising rent. From management's perspective, how much can you realistically drive the NOI simply by cutting operational efficiencies and management's time?
I think, we'll go back. The increasing NOI, have found the biggest increases in, common area fees. It used to be that the landlord or the property owner would constantly just handle everything that was on the property, like it was our responsibility. But now some of those things are being transferred over to the resident instead. So, so they're paying a portion of the common area mowing even,
Yeah.
and increasing costs on the internet, and the use of the power in the hallways, right? You just kind of forget that those are all things that make a property run. And then what was your second part of
Yeah,
your question?
no, like that's exactly it, right? So owners from us, we're always looking
Yeah.
at increasing revenue through and our NOI through rents, but from your perspective, how can you increase your NOI
Yeah.
by decreasing expenses? So
Yeah.
you said bringing up common area maintenance charges. So that's similar to like a commercial type buildings. We've been doing that for years in commercial buildings, but now you're seeing it in the residential
Yeah,
buildings. So
absolutely.
is there anything else on the management side that you think that it's also a big contributor to NOI increases other than camps?
Um, I think move out costs, are part of that thing. Reducing the vacancy loss. Pre-leasing is a huge part of what we focus on. At least what I focused on for a really long time. I think those are some great increases that you can do. And then, just controlling some of these expenses. Oftentimes, you would hire a whole bunch of different contractors to do a lot of these things that you can really do in-house. And just having a really great game plan in order and being proactive instead of reactive to the things that happen in the world of property management.
Okay. Yeah. When the owner goes to sell an asset, how much of the premium does the buyer place in a building that has modernized infrastructure, property management systems already in place?
It just brings in more value, right, to the property. So if you already have some of these infrastructures with fiber coming into the building, I think is probably one of the bigger things. It just increases the value. So that door per unit cost increases definitely. The value, when we're buying some of these older properties, the company that I'm with now, their goal is to kind of buy some older ones, renovate them, to bring them up to a different level, so to speak. I think different things that you can do, whether it is I don't really know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Different focuses on making the user face more friendly versus just thinking about like what the landlord or what the owner needs. You also have to think about what the tenant needs
Okay.
to live their life a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, so when you say user facing, you talk about more aesthetics, or you talk about more feeling when they're there, or
I
you
think
talking
it's
about
always about
security?
feeling.
Okay.
I do. I
Yeah.
think, it's an overall when you approach a property, what does the look like? And, does it feel safe? Is it well lit? All of those things that people think about.
Okay. Yeah,
Which
that's good to know.
yeah.
Property managers carry a ton of liability. How terrifying is the concept of a physical master key going missing?
Mhm.
And what does the fallout of that actually look like for the management company?
Yeah. Master keys are scary. Yeah, they're so convenient. I will say that. It is great when we're doing filter changes and things like that, but they are definitely scary. The idea that a loss of one key, costs you a couple $100 a door to rekey,
Yeah.
right? Every time something like that happens, just because of different safety measures, that's our number one goal is to make sure everybody feels safe and comfortable in their home. And if you lose a key, you don't really have a lot of choice. You have to just kind of to pivot and have those extra expenses. So it's nice when you don't really have to deal with those things anymore.
Right. When Trifecta takes over management of an older building, what is your immediate steps to secure the perimeter and to ensure that the previous tenants, vendors, or bad actors, so to speak, no longer have access?
Double checking the lockboxes. Giving
Okay.
you codes, for those lockboxes, I think are important. Depending on what kinds of things that you have, if you've got different security systems already in place, making sure that the vendors, your preferred vendors, are the same that they have been using, and if not, then making that switch. Just reviewing all the contracts and stuff like that.
Okay. So when you say lock boxes, you're talking about the lock boxes that are kind of out there on the building for vendors to be able to get access into that
To a
building.
key, likely
To a
a,
key,
a
yeah.
master key of some kind.
Oh, the master key
Sometimes,
is in there, not
yeah.
just the exterior door key, but a master key a lot of times is in there. Okay, got it.
Or like a maintenance master is often what's in there.
Okay.
It'll kind of like a Knox box would have sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So main door and then like
Like a
utility
maintenance lock.
rooms and all that stuff.
Yeah, so Cox Communications can get in and or whatever the
Yeah,
source is, right?
yeah, that makes sense. Okay. When there's a true emergency, like a burst pipe, 2 a.m., how do you currently manage giving emergency personnel or maintenance immediate access to those locked units?
So right now, how it works is they would have to go to the office and get the keys to that specific building and the specific unit, and then go back. Oftentimes, what happens is that you're running back and forth between the office and the building in order to get more keys because it's affecting more units than you actually think.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a way that's a lot better than that. A lot more convenient, huh? So you rely on a network of vendors, plumbers, HVAC techs, cleaners. Oh, we're gonna start when they
It's fine.
you come up too. All right. You rely on a network of vendors, plumbers, HVAC techs, cleaners. What is the biggest logistics bottleneck when you're coordinating access from a third party vendor to and across multiple properties?
Um, it's it's definitely access into the unit, especially with these older ones. We have a front door lock and we have a back door lock, and we have a front door key, right? So at any time you're giving our contractor three different keys: one to get into the main building, and then one to the front door, one to the back door, and then maybe there's a different one to the maintenance closet as well.
Yeah.
And just going back and forth. Oftentimes, I just have maintenance meet them over there because I'm not for sure which key to give them.
Yeah, that gets expensive, right? Because you got the vendor you're paying for, you got maintenance paying
Right.
for it. Yeah. And even with new buildings, you don't really know. Like you're learning together. Right?
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah. Industry has relied on physical lock boxes for decades, as you know, right? To let vendors in, and how much of wasted time tracking down lockbox codes and having and it being a big security risk is that for your property?
Yeah. Um, it is a constant battle, I think, with the lockboxes because you have a teammate, right, who sets it up and they're like, hey, here's the lockbox code, and you try to be diligent on how you're keeping record of all of these things. It's a spreadsheet or property management software or stuff like that. But then stuff changes, or there was an emergency and they had to break open the lockbox, or who knows, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we don't have the information on that lockbox anymore, and we don't know where the keys are anymore, or whatever it may be, right? So it's messy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of organization to have lockboxes around the property.
Yeah, yeah. When a vendor bills you for 3 hours of work inside a unit, how do you verify that that work was actually done for 3 hours? And how important is it to have a verifiable audit trail?
Yeah. So we require with our property management software, they get assigned a work order through there, and we require them to submit photos of the completed work. So that way I don't have to actually go there to confirm that it's done.
Mhm.
So we require photos and then a timestamp of when they're there at the property. But
So a photo when they get there to timestamp it,
Yep.
and then a photo when they leave of whatever they worked on as another timestamp.
Yeah.
Okay.
And two, to say, hey, this is what it looked like before I got here. Here's our issue.
Yeah.
And here's our completed and finished work. We're all done. We're leaving. Peace out.
Okay. And that submits right into your software.
Yeah.
Okay. And then does the software timestamp it for you, and so it knows when this one was taken and when this one was taken?
It will. Yeah, it tells you when they're putting in the information.
Okay.
opening
So if they take a
configuration.
picture but don't send it to you until they're completely done before and after,
Right, then
that
it
doesn't
wouldn't.
work.
No, they could just submit it all at the very end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. Um, can you scroll more, Bill, Mr. Bill?
Just say neighbors on there.
Uh, we only have like, I mean, I could probably keep her here for 5 more minutes. Is there any one of the questions that I had that you really want to answer? You really want to get on the podcast?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
No.
No, like,
Is that up there, Josh?
Yeah, it is. We have it all up there. I don't, Bill, what do you think? Like, she's got 5 minutes left there. I'm not gonna be able to get through all 15 of these questions. You think just kind of go with the flow?
A little bit of origin maybe, because we talked a lot about your pillars, so maybe just a little bit about Melissa.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about when you first got into property management,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, give me the background on that a little bit. Like, how did you get started? And then going from Green Slate now into owning Trifecta.
Yeah. So I moved to Omaha right out of high school, and I knew that I wasn't for sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I was working retail and realized that probably wasn't going to be a lot of fun. I was in school, and I just walked into the office where I was living. I really liked those girls, when we leased, right? Because that's what happens when you lease an apartment. You do build a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And so I had built a relationship with these girls, and I walked in and just asked them if they were hiring. And 2 weeks later, I was a leasing agent for this small.
That fast.
Yeah, that fast.
Okay.
It's kind of been each time that I have switched different companies, it's always been like pretty quick, quicker than I had anticipated.
Yeah. So what was that? What was the first place that you leased
It was
out?
with Point Management, it was Standing River Lake and Tranquility.
Oh, okay.
On like 132nd
Yeah,
Court.
they're still managing that though, aren't they?
So they switched to asset for like a year, and
Okay.
then the owner, who I just recently spoke with, was like, "Yeah, I decided to just do it back in house again. I just like it better," which I get. Like
Yeah.
owners like to manage their own stuff, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then so you went from that's how you got started, and then you moved into Green Slate. Like how many years after?
So I worked for a couple of really beautiful and amazing companies in between.
Oh, okay.
I worked for lunch for a while, about 5 years. I did the lease up at Midtown Crossing, which was a
Okay,
lot of fun.
yeah.
When it first opened, it was such a cool and unique build for Omaha. It was such a great community.
Yeah, for sure.
And I worked for New Style for a little while.
Okay.
New Style was great. Did the lease ups for 3 different properties with them. I just had a really great experience. Learned a lot about construction and development and
Yeah, Todd's
how
my
all that
dad.
works, right? I mean, it's
He's such a
very cool.
nerd when it comes to construction. He
Yeah.
does everything. I love
He
him.
does, yeah. And his family's wonderful. I think that's where I really truly found kind of this niche or desire that I knew that I would always want to be with a small company. I don't think this idea of working for 200,000 units or whatever it may be, it just doesn't. It feels less personal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was super happy at New Style. I loved it. The company, I loved the culture. I loved the properties that I were at. They were all great. And then one night, I was looking on LinkedIn, just seeing what was out in the world, and there was a position for the president of Green Slate Management. And my husband's like, just apply. And I was like, I don't know. That's like a pretty big leap, right?
Yeah.
And I applied on a Sunday night. I had an interview on Wednesday and a job offer on Friday.
Oh wow. It's
And
that fast.
it was
It's like you
that
said.
fast, just-
Boom.
yeah, I mean, it
Boom.
just like happened. And I started out as the vice president of property management for a year and mentored and learned so much. That first year was so valuable, on being a better leader and motivator and putting in structures and processes and things that I had done but not been really accountable for a really long time. And that first year was amazing. I think it was really amazing for me. And then my 1 year anniversary, I was at lunch with the owners of Green Slate Management, and Matt was like, "Hey, can I have your phone?" And I'm like, "Sure, whatever." And so he's getting this email together, and he just shows me this email, and all it says is, "I'm excited to announce Melissa as the president of Green Slate Management," and I had no idea. And I'm sitting at lunch, I just started crying, and it was great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yeah,
For Matt to do
great.
that for you.
Yeah, it was really
love
cool.
it.
It was sweet. So I was there for 8 years, and we started with just about 315 apartments, and ended with 1,000. So it was a great journey.
That is a big journey. Yeah, and now you're on a new one with
Yes,
Trifecta.
yes.
Tell us
So
a
now
little bit
with
about
Trifecta,
that.
So we started like probably April 1st. And it's the same story. You know, he had these assets, Ben, my business partner, had these assets and just wasn't happy with some of the management things that were happening. And, you know, it was serendipitous that I was at a pivot point in my career and he reached out to me and we had some really great conversations, long conversations about whether or not this was where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And then it just kind of fell into place and it worked out.
That's
So we're here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so what is the future? That's something I did want to ask you about. Like you're looking out 5 years. What does Trifecta look like in 5 years?
Yeah. Um, I think our goal with Trifecta is to fill this niche in property management. You know, there are companies that will take 100 plus more units, or single family homes, right? There's not really, I don't think, in my opinion, um, this niche between like, you know, a fourplex or eightplex up to about, you know, 50 to 100 units. You know, this idea of what's fair to the owners and to the company to have this balance of managing your property with care as if we owned it as well, and wearing that hat and not just, you know, being a third party client where, you know, well, this is what it costs me, this is how it is, right? We want to find that balance where, you know, your asset is important and we can take care of it for you.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell us about your new company?
No, we're just excited and we're growing and excited to build a great culture and great people along the way.
We're excited for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.